Well, here we are again. And I didn't think I'd have to make this video again, but this time I don't really have a problem making this video again because I know you guys have been waiting for it for quite a while. And you know what, I think I finally have a video that's going to be able to hold its own as a sequel. So, won't waste too much time, we'll get into it. I was thinking to myself the other day, since I did the first Black Pill video, there was a lot of people who had made their own forays into those kind of topics, and I'd done a lot of work, made a lot of progress in that, and so I, was thinking to myself, my book's going to do it, I don't really need to talk about it anymore, but kind of did a little bit looking into it just out of curiosity, if you know the Black Pill, you know very well about the concept of bone law, which is that your bone structure is a very good measure of your genetic health. And so, I kind of just, out of curiosity, I figured out people are probably running with it, but I didn't really see anything. I looked up on YouTube, didn't really see a whole lot. I looked up on Google, didn't really see a whole lot. And I was like, maybe we just need to talk about it again, man. Bone law. Alright, so bone law is the concept, like I said, your bones are a measure of your genetic health. More genetically healthy bones, like when you're a man. If you have healthier bones, generally you're going to be taller. Generally, when you have stronger bones, it's going to be larger bones, larger circumference, I should say, which means, men that have bones that have a larger circumference, like at the wrist, it's a measure of how much muscle mass they can put on. The wider the bone, larger the bone, the more muscle mass they're able to, have on their body, or able to carry, without usage of steroids, or even with steroids, then an additional amount. And, in height, the jawline, the chin, the maxilla, these are all measurements, bone structure, facial structure, just body structure, with the bones. And so, and then the same thing also applies to women. When women have a healthy amount of estrogen and are feminine, whatever the case might be, they're genetically healthy. They're generally on the smaller side, have the wider hips, whereas women who are not as genetically healthy, do not have as healthy of a bone structure, are generally taller, just kind of like straight up and down, and so play it to both sides there. And so that's very basic, very well understood by people who understand the Black Pill, So now we're looking at, or I had kind of been thinking on it some more, and I thought to myself, there's more here that I really haven't heard discussed. There's more here that I really haven't heard people talk about or really go into that I can see, I can see more, I think, than what people are talking about. And what I'm going to talk about is, when we're looking at our society, our genetic health in general has been declining. We're seeing more heritable diseases like autism. Autism is basically just flat out genetic decline. A lot of what autism has, you can see is deterioration of genetic health, deterioration of genetic quality, in my opinion. A lot of what I've looked at shows autism, and same thing with cancer. Cancer, increasing rates of cancer tied to decline of genetic health. So we're looking, and I've just been doing some research. I'm trying to think how I even got on it exactly, but I started to kind of draw, and what I ended up drawing out was two main channels that American men are falling into. And one is, well, we'll get into it. We'll start off with first, the man who is not as genetically healthy. We're seeing a lot more autistic men. We're seeing, a lot more men with genetic health problems, and there's a reason for that. We're looking at these men that have genetic health problems, like autism. It all starts with the parents. You see, we're experiencing record numbers of women enrolling in college. And when a woman enrolls in college, she's career-minded, career-focused on the future, on having a career and going into business or whatever her field may be. Now, when she's studying and going into this field, it's taking time away from her starting a family, if she even wants to start a family. And so the years go by, and if you look at the statistics, the longer, and this goes for men and women, the longer that a man or woman goes, they're 18 years old, as the years go by, each year goes by, their reproductive health is decreasing. The quality of a man's sperm is decreasing the quality of a woman's eggs is decreasing. The chances for disease are increasing with every passing year. And that's, you can look up the statistics for that. And so what we're seeing is, a guy and a girl, they're college educated, they're going on and they're pursuing their education, pursuing a good life. And all right, they've been in school, they're out of school, they're making good money, they're 34, 35, all right, totally set up, hey, let's have a few kids. So, they start building a family, and it's difficult, it's more difficult when you wait to even conceive. So let's say they do conceive, and they're having a child, and they have their child. Wonderful. Everything's great, everybody's happy and healthy, but it's less so than it appears, because the woman and the man, their reproductive quality has decreased in all these years. Basically, they're twice the age of a legal adult. So let's say they're 36 years old. In that time, their genetic reproductive quality has decreased quite a bit. Although they might be in a much better position financially, might be more educated to have their family and have it be more stable, they're then faced with the fact that their child is going to have a higher rate or a higher susceptibility to diseases like autism or all other kinds of different genetic diseases. They might, the child might be born smaller. They might have these health problems. So that's kind of this main challenge that we're seeing, and it's also beyond just people getting older and having families older and later on. We're also seeing we're having an epidemic in this country of obesity. It's an epidemic, and when you're obese, you're very, very unhealthy. It's very, very bad on your genetics, actually, and on your reproductive quality to be obese. It does a number on you, very damaging. So we're having an obesity epidemic in this country, where people who are obese, they're having children. A pregnant woman, she is eating lots of junk food. She's eating McDonald's every day, or she's drinking soda every day, and it's doing a number on that fetus that she's got developing inside of her. That fetus is going to be more susceptible to diseases, and this is some studies. You can look this up. This is legitimate. That the child, in an obese mother is going to be more susceptible to diseases that are related with obesity, such as heart disease and diabetes and all these things. So we have on both sides of there, the poor obesity, and we have the fat pride, fat acceptance. It's only increasing the damage of that disease and that epidemic, as well as the families being started later on. So that's like a twofer. It's really, you're seeing autism increasing at a huge rate. Cancer's increasing, as we're seeing the genetic health, and even for men, our sperm count. You can look up there's a BBC documentary, the mystery of the missing male. The man's sperm count in the last 50 years has just plummeted, because we're seeing this variety of causes between increased education, later childbearing in life, combined with poor health, as far as obesity and less exercise, and more exposure to cell phones or whatever. Now that might be a little more unsubstantiated, but you get the idea. Now, on the other hand, so that's where we're looking at men who end up being like 5'4", autistic, living with their old parents in their basement, and they're what happened to me? Why did this happen? It's very likely to be the cause. And there's a lot of other causes too, like you might be drug abuse, alcohol abuse, smoking, whatever, that could cause these. But those, I would say, are the two main issues that we're seeing with the decreasing genetic quality as time goes on. And then when you also look at the migration that we're seeing in our country and in other first world countries, where the men are coming in and they're perceived as more masculine, or the men are perceived as more masculine, and people are, the reason for that is the men, in these countries, generally you see like here in Minnesota, you see like Somalian family, they have 5 or 6 or 7 kids, and the woman might be 30 years old. She's already had 7 or 8 kids, and she might not have any more children after that, but she's had those children in kind of like the prime years, where they're more likely to have a healthier growth, and they're not, they haven't been on fast food for a long time. They've been, sustaining on traditional cultural dishes. They've been sustaining on other, more healthy meals, and, they're not laying around. They're getting more exercise, or doing more physical labor and work. And so for that reason, that's why we're seeing the more fertility, more health in the foreign populations that are migrating into the first world countries. Now, on the other hand, on that note, we do have plenty of genetically healthy people in America. We're seeing record numbers of young single mothers, or young unwed mothers, I should say. And the majority of children being born, and this was true even in the first video, that was a year ago. It's been a year since we've done the first black pill, and even at that point, because this is probably, swear to God, this was like 3 or 4 years ago now, that the majority of children were being born to unwed mothers. For the first time since those records had been being kept. And now let's look at that, for instance, the other side of the coin, so to speak. Let's say we got an 18-year-old man and woman. They're living in an inner city, in an impoverished area. In these areas, sexual activity is more likely to be starting at a younger age. So we're seeing these younger people, they're having sex at a younger age, and okay, so they're 18 years old, they're not overweight, they might not always have a lot of extra food, they're, might spend more time outside. So let's say that they're physically healthy enough, so to speak, they're in physically decent shape, and they're young, they have a child. All right, so they're 19 years old, and they got a 3-month-old child. Now, what is very likely to happen in these communities, and just in general, we're seeing a lot of these young couples. They don't stay together. They result in a single mother raising a child. Could be, the woman wants some government benefits, so she just drops the guy. See it happen. They just don't get along. There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of fighting, and it's just not good. They break up. Maybe the man pays child support, maybe he doesn't. Whatever the case might be. And we're seeing these couples. Okay, so you got a young couple, and the mom's raising the son. The grandma's help raising the son. He grows up. Okay, this guy, let's say, very genetically healthy. Let's say he's got a good bone structure. He grows up, he's 6'2". He's got a strong jaw, strong brow ridge, just a decent, healthy young man. Now, however, unfortunately, being raised without a father figure in the household, this guy, we're talking about this guy, he's got prenatal testosterone, was all healthy. He's healthy. He's a man. So he's got all the things of being a man that, some of these, he's got the higher testosterone, he's got whatever the case may be, so higher aggression, maybe he's not as willing to listen to authority, and especially this is very compounded being raised in a household with all women, because women are nurturing. A mother is nurturing to her child generally, not always. There's definitely a lot of abuse cases, a lot of horrible things that have happened. But that's just, when we're looking at gender roles, a woman's job is to be more nurturing to the child. But a man's job is to be somebody who lays down the law, who lays down the discipline. Now, you see this a lot. All these highly publicized cases of inner city young men and young black men or young Hispanic men, that are killed in these altercations. And you don't see the father around. The father's not around, but you'll see the mother or the grandmother, and she'll say, he was a good boy. He did not, he was not, this is not him. What led to his death was not him. But that is what a mother is designed. That's how a mother is. A mother is nurturing. A mother is forgiving to the child. Maybe he did something wrong, but the mother, like I said, not all the time. Plenty of cases of mothers who don't feel this way, who don't care about the children that way. But a woman, a mother will, look to forgive and look to turn the other cheek a lot of times toward the son. Okay, he did that, but that's not who he is. I know him. I raised him. He wasn't that way. That's not how he is. Because that's how they are. But the fact is that this young man did not have a father in the household to discipline him, to keep him from getting into these situations that led him down this bad path. And, and let's say a guy, and this is everywhere, we're seeing, like I said, both channels are leading to a societal collapse, or at least a big, decrease, a big decline, a big societal decline. A guy, let's say he's not getting into a gang, or he's not, doing whatever, but even so, on the other hand, he doesn't have a discipline to act, properly or like with respect or with, class, or I don't want to say that, get your fedoras out or whatever, but, a lot of these guys are going, and then they're, 16 years old, 18 years old, and they're getting another one pregnant, and the cycle's repeating itself, where these guys, these younger couples, we're seeing the genetic health is all just fine, they're not being severely autistic, they're not seeing these genetic diseases that come with, having later childbirth, but having this earlier childbirth. It's leading to broken families that aren't able to, have this family structure that's going to raise healthy, educated children. That's not going to be raised in a healthy environment. The children are going to have, they might not have genetic issues, but they might have psychological issues. They're not going to be disciplined. They're not going to, they're going to go down a path in their life that's not going to do for them what is best, and so. And it all comes back, like I said, to genetic health. I mean, just something as simple as, looking at a person is going to tell you a lot to do with that. Because, I mean, you look at a guy, he's kind of short, kind of, he has the signs, of weak bone structure, whatever, but he seems to be doing well for himself, probably born to an older couple, and, experiencing these, may have been set up to go do very well in life, but he's experiencing issues that are a sign of poor genetic health. You might have reduced fertility. You might have autism. You might be short. You might have, different diseases or whatever the case might be, more susceptibility in any case. And then you have people who are, born younger. You see them, they look, they're intimidating. They might have a lot of tattoos. They might be very gruff, kind of intimidating, opposing people. These are people who were, born young parents, young healthy parents, but, they came up broken family, the help or that what they needed, the guidance they needed wasn't there. They might turn to the streets. They're being aggressive. They're undisciplined. You're likely to get in trouble with law. They're likely to get into different situations that are not helpful for them, that are bad for them. And so really, both ways you cut it, they're both a net decline for our society. Because, if you're smart and you're educated, you got a good future set up for you, everything's good, but your children are suffering crippling disease or you're infertile, then your bloodline is going to end there. You're a man who, is having 10 kids in the projects, and then you're gone. Hey, you got a lot of healthy kids, they're all genetically healthy, the prenatal testosterone is to the fullest, they're going to be tall, they're going to be healthy, they can be great athletes, they can be whatever, but they're going to lack guidance, they're going to lack direction in their lives that are going to lead them to make more poor decisions, more bad choices. They're overall going to, have a net impact on them, or a negative impact on them, on society, and their communities, so on and so forth. So, I don't know if I really have a solution. It's hard to say what the best option might be, because we're kind of there's no tracks there's no brakes on the train. You know what I mean? We're kind of going off the tracks. It's hard to say what's going to be, how can we solve this? I don't have the answers, but I mean, these are just some issues that I'm seeing, that I'm not seeing being presented in the way that I was having my insight on them. So I hope that those thoughts, to you were a sufficient sequel. The book's still coming, but I just had to, feel like I had to put out some thoughts on that, on bone law and genetics, and how those genetics, you can see the impact, just on a person's genetics, and, what that's doing to society. The good people, the genetically healthy, intelligent, educated, and young, it's a shrinking minority. And it's hard to say, where our society is going to be at, if this continues. But, all right, well, thank you guys for joining me for this video. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll catch you next time.